Live fast, die young.
Ha! Fantastic. It's good to be back. Sorry I didn't have one of these last Wednesday, but we are back with an industry interviews today. We've also got one on Friday with Peter McDonald, the director of none other than Rambo 3, among other things. And he's worked on everything from A Bridge Too Far to 2001 Space Odyssey. So definitely tune in for that. That's going to be at 8 o'clock this Friday. And then on Sunday, we got another one. So it's going to be very busy the next couple of weeks. But tonight we've been trying to organise this for a little bit. I've got my good friend August Hahn coming on, who is the developer of the relaunch of the Lone Wolf book series, some of which you can see on the shelf behind me just there. I'm going to bring in my lovely co-host who is head of Outcast Birmingham. There she is with her hair in pristine condition. Unlike my own, Suzette Puckosaurus from Birmingham Outcasts. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I've got a key to the city, so I'm very happy.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well that's really good to know. Well, what we're going to do now, before we bring our guest in, because we may have some people watching this at some point who have no idea what the Lone Wolf book series is, and that actually includes Suzette. So I found a great video, which is also on YouTube. It's on the channel for Black Ink. Age of Ink. Age of Ink, not Black Ink. That's a different channel. And they've done this wonderful little video intro, sort of illustrating really what the Lone Wolf book series is about. So before we bring our lovely guest in, what I'm going to do is share that. And you can have a little look at it. Here we go. Can you see that, Suze?
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. All right. Well, let me know if you can hear it as well.
What do you get when you put together a masterful scenario, awesome illustrations, well-designed rules, and addictive gameplay extending over several volumes of an epic story where you are the hero? The answer is Lone Wolf, the most exciting and successful gamebook series ever. Gamebooks were very popular, especially in the 1980s when the genre flourished. Among the many different ones, some were outstanding as they introduced smart features or amazing storylines.
I had all of those. I had all of those.
Copy their predecessors without offering much more.
Yeah.
Most of them, as found under the Fighting Fantasy label, were standalone, without link to another. Once you finished the story...
Yeah, but we don't need to know about that.
Lone Wolf
this is Lone Wolf.
A brilliant such series, beginning in 1984 and still going on 10 years later. Written by Joe Dever, its ironclad scenario applied not only to each individual volume, but also extended to the entire series, transforming it into an epic saga.
Different covers.
It also benefited from the most amazing illustrations of all gamebooks by Gary Chalk, whose work influenced the heroic fantasy domain for many years.
Yeah, I remember that thing.
Talisman.
All right, well, I think that's enough to give us a little overview there. So we'll stop sharing. Let me take that off. Oh, there we go. So it is what we call a fantasy game book where you make choices. You have a character that you create at the beginning, much like Dungeons and Dragons or a role-playing game, and then there is a combat system. And you have an adventure, and you make the choices by picking the numbers through the book to see where you go. But what set Lone Wolf aside was the books linked from one to the other, and gradually the world got bigger and bigger. And that, for me, is what made it amazing. And I was a diehard fan of the first 10 books, and then I got into other things like, girls. But anyway,
how old was you?
Before that, it occupied my life for a very long time, and I never finished the entire series. And one of the things on my bucket list is to do exactly that. So before we talk about my quest to finish all 32 books, let's bring in the man who's very much been a major support to Joe Deaver's son, Ben, in sort of relaunching the books and getting everything organized and putting it all together. None other than August Hahn, all the way from the United States.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us today, August. Oh, we can't hear you. Are you muted?
There we go. How's that?
Yes.
Much better. All right. Suzette, your hair looks amazing. Lance, yours is hidden, and mine is retreating. So we've got it all covered.
Yeah, between us, we cover all three of the hair food groups.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's a great little video that they've done on the Age of Ink.
Age of Ink is fantastic. That whole video is well worth watching.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the book series and you kind of want a bit of an overview of what it's about, after you've watched this video, of course, you can go and have a look at theirs. And
definitely.
August said the guys behind that video wouldn't mind me sharing it, so
I doubt it severely.
That's excellent. Although I'm sure YouTube will flag me up, no doubt, and I'll have to do that whole appeal process thing. So
they get bored if they couldn't flag people. So
yeah,
August, why don't you tell us how you sort of first, rather than getting into the relaunching, tell us about how you first came to know about the books when they were first out. Did you play them on release? Did you come to it later? Tell us a bit about your background in association with the series.
All right. Well, I was born on a military base overseas, and there wasn't a lot to do in the compound where my parents lived. So I would get into a great deal of trouble because I was bored. So to try to keep me from getting bored, Mom would buy me tons of books, just books. And I loved it. So I did a lot of reading at a very early age. And one of the books that really stuck with me was this little book, Flight from the Dark. So I read it, and I read it again and again and again. And I took it on trips, and I brought it to the States with us when we finally moved here. And it just it was my formative for all things fantasy. Eventually, Lone Wolf got me into things like Tolkien, Ursula Le Guin, the Dragon Rider series, everything bridged from that. I didn't actually find Final Fantasy until I was much older. I didn't even know Final Fantasy existed. It was just Lone Wolf.
Fantastic. And did you play any of the? I mean, did you come across Warlock of Firetop Mountain? Because that was my introduction to the sort of
that was my first fighting fantasy book. And then Citadel of Chaos. Then I skipped a little further on ahead, like Hotel of Hell. But yeah, my very first one was Warlock.
Yeah, I think even before that, I don't know if you remember this, but TSR, who became the owners of Dungeons and Dragons, they also had the Dragonlance trilogy, which I have the 3 original first edition prints of, funnily enough. I think they're in the box over there.
Fantastic books, and they helped me get into gaming fantasy. Yes.
Yeah, I was already gaming when I read them, but they brought out a page by the numbers, but they were very limited in terms of the different directions you could go. They didn't really have a combat system, if I remember rightly. But they did do the, do you want to go left down the corridor, or you want to turn right into the woods? Go to page 17.
Like Mines of Zaxxaroth and the Soul Forge. Those were two of the game books.
I think they were the first ever books that came out that did that. They predated Warlock of Firetop Mountain. They predated the Lone Wolf book series.
Did they? I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure by about 6 months or something. They were pretty. I mean, they weren't great.
They were at least contemporary. I'm not sure which came out first, but they were definitely contemporary.
Yeah, no, they were very basic. But yeah, so I had Warlock of Firetop Mountain. I think I had Death Trap Dungeon and 3 or 4 others.
Death Trap Dungeon, a good one, a really
and
good
I think
one.
Lone Wolf came out, was it about 6 months, a year after Firetop?
Again, very contemporary. The dates are, if Lone Wolf didn't come out first, it definitely came out before most.
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty soon after the
Mhm.
Fighting Fantasy started. So for me, the thing that was, I mentioned it earlier, the thing that was great about the Lone Wolf series, let me grab my book 1, was that it was the world and the world building. And I liked the fact that one of the things you didn't get with the Fighting Fantasy was they didn't normally have a map in the front.
And and maps are absolutely a hallmark of the Lone Wolf world.
Yeah, and I really loved the maps. And then this map, as you played more books, this map gradually expanded in different directions, and you found more and more of the world, which was great. And it had a really interesting story. There was a whole kind of lore to it, and
a continuing story. All of the books up to what's coming out soon is number 32 is a 32 book saga, and you play through the whole thing. It's a continuous story.
Yeah, Suzette just can't wait to play through the whole thing with me online. She's really looking forward to it.
Online?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Gonna do it like this. You see, I'll have the book and I'll be reading out some of the choices, and you'll occasionally come on and make some of the choices for me, unless I say no, we're not going to go that way because that beast looks dangerous. But,
so these books start in, was it 1983, 1984 when they first started? When was the first book?
Yeah, the very first book, early 80s, and then they just continued on. There was a long pause, but we'll probably get to that in the conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one was first published 1984. So that's the same year that Dune and the Terminator came out.
Yep.
And I remember that well because I saw them both on the same day. 84. And this is a first edition. So I got the first one as soon as it came out. And I think most of mine are first editions. Oh, that's so cute. I even wrote my name in the front and all that kind of thing. Anyway, and no doubt there's probably many pencil marks and whatnot.
That just means that it was well loved.
It was loved.
It was loved.
So I got all 10 of them, and I vaguely remember because I was kind of like they tended to end on a cliffhanger as they went along.
Yes, a cliffhanger, and then just a very brief teaser for the next book.
Yeah, and I got I started getting annoyed because the gap between the next book coming out seemed to start getting longer and longer. And this is vague from memory, so I could be completely wrong about this. But so by the time I got to book 10, apart from the fact that I was dating and doing other things like going down the pub,
the aforementioned girls. Yes.
Yeah, girls. It was mainly girls and movies were the two main distractions at this point. But
that's fair.
But I did probably played RPGs up until like 1991 or 92. And I've really got back into gaming in the last 5 years, as you can probably see from some of the knickknacks behind me. But I never wanted to throw these away or get rid of them. I had about 10 Fighting Fantasy books. I never wanted to play any of them again. They didn't, but this world was a world I liked revisiting. So if I bought a Fighting Fantasy book, I would only read it once and then I was done with it.
Right.
These were great. And then actually we did a short role-playing campaign set in the world, used the maps and the lore and all of that. And
right.
And then the Magnum and Companion came out. Do you have a copy of that?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Have you got one you can show us on camera?
Sure. I'll have to go dig it out. So pop me backstage and I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, you're definitely going to want that. I should have mentioned it earlier. I'm sorry. I'll carry on waffling on while you're.
No trouble. I'll grab it in a sec.
All right. So while August goes to get that, because I really do want to show that was a companion book that came out. The other thing that made these books very unique was the artist who worked alongside Joe Diva, who wrote the story. It's a guy called Gary Chalk. And a lot of his artwork is in the Magnum and Companion. That's been geared up for release. Now, the new book So you can see this is the new edition, Suze. So you can see
Right.
it sort of got much kind of more visceral, sort of nicer, modern artwork. I still
Yeah.
like the old style cartoon.
No, I like that one as well. It looks
Yeah.
familiar to me. I had two older brothers that would have.
They may well have they
Yeah.
may well have been there. And then this book's also been expanded. I'll get August to comment on that in a sec. And I actually played it the other day, and it took me 3 days to get through it. And when I started it, I didn't put it down until I had to go to bed. So it was quite addictive, which was actually, it's a pretty good sign.
So once you open the book, you can then, as the reader, make decisions of where you go to.
Yeah. So the whole
Based
story,
on pages.
starts with the siege of the Kai Temple. Let me bring August back in.
All right.
I'll pop this back on the shelf. And
Show me his books.
August, do you want to chip in about how it works and give Suzette an overview of how it starts when you open the book and what you have to do to get going?
All right. Here is the book that you asked for.
Oh, that's the Magnum. Is that the original one?
No, this is the second printing with the updated art.
Right. I was going to say the one that I had definitely had a different cover to that.
Yes, yeah, there was a previous version. It was the original version. This was the updated art when they started publishing them in the States.
Right. Now, does that have a map of the whole world in it in the middle?
I believe there is a black and white map. There are many maps of Magnamund.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here is Northern Magnamund.
Oh, yeah, nice. And then, of course, there's more detailed versions of different sections of that.
Indeed. And I can glance quickly and find the color map of Southern Magnamund.
There you go.
And
Wow.
it's all basically a mega continent split
Yeah.
by a massive canyon called
Yeah, and that's also being relaunched, isn't it? We're going to see a new version of that coming out as well. Is that right?
Yes. Well, there have been several updated maps, but if you mean an updated version of Magnamund Companion, yes, that's in the works.
And I've got. I mean, I don't want to jump around too much because we'll get started on Project Aeon, which we want to mention later.
Oh, we can just ramble. I'm here for the duration.
But I do want to show. Yeah, so this for people watching. This is one of the maps that you would get in the book, and you can see all of these on Project Aeon, and the link for that is down below. And I'll get August to talk about Project Aeon in a little bit. But
sure, I'd love
to. If you go on there, you'll be able to see the maps and things. Really, this is one of the things that always really just grabbed me about it. Everything was. The bad guys, they had a certain type of culture. They even put bits of the language in the back of the book. I mean, I didn't bother with any of that. I've got to be honest. I just wanted to get into the adventure and start hacking up orc type things. But
and you absolutely can.
But it was great that it was all there,
right?
And that's all been expanded upon in the new edition. So you obviously let's continue your story a little bit. You became a big fan of this. Kept you out of trouble on the army base, and you didn't steal tanks and things, which is good. And
not more than once, but that has been expunged from my record, and I don't talk about it.
We won't mention that. But so how did you go from being a fan and someone who collected the books to then getting involved in the relaunch of books, of relaunching them again, reformatting them and pulling it all together? And how did that all come about for you? To lead us into that.
Okay, well, I started writing. Gaming pretty much was my life. I did, because of where I lived and because of the fact that I was out of the States and we traveled a lot. I didn't have a lot of permanent friends, so I mostly lived in my own head. So role-playing games just became an extension of that, and eventually that became a career. And I started writing freelance. Eventually, I landed with a company called Mongoose Publishing. They're in England. And while I was working with them, we ended up doing a Magnamund open game day. And I was asked to run role-playing games, which I was happy to do. I've done it before. I enjoy it. What I didn't know was that one of my players was Joe Deaver. So after the game,
That's quite funny,
no
man.
one told me. I had no clue.
Yeah, and having met Joe Diva, I imagine that was quite an interesting moment.
Oh, absolutely. Once because I just jumped right into it. I didn't get anybody's names. We were kind of pressed for time, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was enjoying themselves. So I just ran the game. I gave them their characters. I played through the scenario, and when it was done, and he came up and he said, well, first, I wanted to thank you for an excellent game. It was a great deal of fun. Second, I'm Joe Deaver. It just dropped it on me like a hammer.
Mm.
And
Thank you for providing some mildly entertaining 2 hours for me. I am the creator of this world.
Yeah. It was lovely to watch you pretend to role play. Now I am the father of role playing. How are you?
Yeah, I mean him and Gary Gygax, if I'm pronouncing Gary's name correctly, who invented D&D. These are almost like mythological names in the worlds of fantasy role playing now, aren't they?
Joe Deaver, Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson. Yes, literal legends. So after I picked my jaw back up and reattached it, we went to the pub. I had far too many ciders. I can't really tell you what happened during that meeting. I don't remember much of it. But after that, I was signed on to write the role-playing game.
Ah, fantastic.
So, and that's pretty much been the start of my journey ever since. And now forever will it dominate my destiny.
How did the role-playing game sell? Because even though I guess probably by the early to mid 90s, I dipped out of RPGs completely. I still played board war games occasionally, which you can see there's a few here. But I would still go into game shops. I mean, I worked in one until the mid 90s, but I would still go into game shops and I would look at kind of, what sort of stuff were coming out. There was all the different D&D world expansions. It went massive, Ravenloft and all that stuff. But I don't remember ever seeing the Lone Wolf RPG on the shelves of our local game store. I just can't picture it. Now, maybe that doesn't mean I didn't see it because my memory's a bit crap at the best of times. But did it do well? Did it do well in the UK? How did that go? And is it still around?
It did pretty well in the UK. It did even better in Europe.
Right.
Italy, Spain, France. It exploded there, but it did pretty well in the UK. In the US, it had limited distribution, but yeah, it sold fairly well. Well enough that eventually Cubicle 7, another English company, picked up the rights to it and put out the Lone Wolf Adventure game, which I have behind me.
Is that different from the book? Is that a different game?
It's a different game than the first role-playing game that came out. I wrote that one as well, and that uses a different rule set that's very close to the books.
Could you grab that and hold it up for us so we could see the whole thing there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mate, plug your stuff. I'm all for that. So this is okay. So that's like the sort of launch RPG set. Is that?
Yeah, that's an actual boxed set.
Yeah, that's the set that you would buy to sort of start, and that's available still now.
No, unfortunately.
Oh,
but that is the version that we are likely to relaunch soon. Again, it's all on the list. Right now, it's the definitive editions, the books that you've got there. And so that's our focus at the moment.
That one that's shrink wrapped, that's like your collectible version that you're keeping in its wrapping.
Oh, no, that's the one I tore open and played with and stuff.
Oh, really?
I have a wrapped one in the back.
Is that through a sort of like a corridor with many kind of traps and a boulder rolls down and stuff, and it's on a plinth?
I am not allowed to divulge that detail. So.
Security reasons, Lance.
Oh, exactly. So, body disposal alone is a lot of prep.
Oh my god, this is already becoming surreally fantastic. I'm loving it. So you started off as a fan, and then you basically became embedded in the lore, and then ended up writing the lore, which is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. It is a dream come true. Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. And you're still doing stuff for Mongoose Publishing in that arena.
I've moved on from Mongoose back into freelancing.
Right.
Still love them. They're still a fantastic company. They've got some great writers doing some great stuff right now. And I highly recommend people to go check them out. Cubicle 7 as well. They've got a number of licenses they're really doing fantastically with.
I will check both of those out after the
especially if you're a Warhammer fan.
Yeah, it's a bit too spiky, and I don't like anything that rewrites the rules every 2 to 3 years to get you to spend loads more of unnecessary coinage. And I'm also
that's Games Workshop, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of like, oh, by the way, we're just suddenly saying that squats don't exist in the universe anymore. So I'm really sorry about your £2,500 army that you spent 10 years painting, but you can no longer enter it into official competitions. That sort of stuff.
They can take my squats when they tear them out of my beer-soaked hands.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't agree with that. Why I don't agree with that business.
No, I don't either. But
so for that reason,
it's a business model. I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, but for that reason, I don't support them. I did play their projects. I used to have a big Eldar army, and I used to have a big ultramarine, space marine army. But of course, as soon as Suzette came round, she just grabbed all that stuff and said, "That's mine," and left with it all. You know, so I don't have it anymore. But going back to Lone Wolf. So
right.
So let's get into the books. So the books went right through to, I think they published up to about number 28. Is that right?
Yes, number 28, which was the Hunger of Sejanaz.
And that the first edition of that came out when? Was that in the 90s?
Yes, the late 90s.
Right. And then, so the last 4 books that were planned for the series, they didn't get written, and
not at that time, no.
And I think that was partly due to a copyrights issue? I mean, what happened there? And you also mentioned earlier that there was a big gap that happened between writing of some of the books. Maybe shed some light on that as well.
Well, some of the details there are. It's a little complicated, but for the most part, what happened was in the late 90s, Joe had written The Hunger of Sejanaz. He had all the rest of the books planned and was even stuck in for the most part on book 29. But there were issues that left him, at least at that time, believing that he wasn't going to be able to publish the rest. And that's probably a good point to segue into Project Aeon.
Yes, it is. I've got so he kind of tabled those because this. I mean, Joe. For those people who don't know who are watching, Joe sadly passed away of cancer. I think in 2017.
He did after fighting it for a very long time.
Yeah, and it was funny because briefly to explain how I met him, I got invited to play a war game. There was a group of them who all owned big war game rooms, and you kind of walked into these outhouses in people's gardens that had it was like a kid in a candy store. You walk in and there's shelving and shelving and shelving of scenery and cabinets and cabinets and cabinets of armies of all different eras, fantasy, Romans, World War II, and then massives of landscaped boards of every different type of terrain you could imagine. And I'm like, I want this room.
Oh,
now, in order to play, did you have to borrow your miniatures back from Suzette?
Yeah, no, because they weren't doing Warhammer. It was we were playing a modern.
I'll only sell them back.
We were playing a modern sort of wild geesey African scenario, and I was playing these Afrikaner mercenaries who were proper nasty types. Most of them got killed, but yeah,
so real old school wargaming then.
Yeah, and Joe organised the game. I knew someone who was going, and it was through a forum that I met the guys who were running it, and that's how I got invited along.
Right.
And when he was, we were sort of chatting in the lunch break, and he said, "Oh yeah, you know, blah blah blah." And I said, "Hang on, sorry, Joe Diva, wasn't there some guy that wrote? Because I've got all the books of the Lone Wolf. Massive fan of that. Are you related to him?" I was like, I am him.
I am him.
I mean, the two of you should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, no. But anyway, so obviously after that, I was like a gushing fanboy for about 20 minutes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then we went back to playing the game, but it was good fun. So that was in about 2006 that I met up with him. So okay, so he got up to 28. The plans to write the last 4 kind of got stalled. Project Aeon, when did that start? And that's a great resource website.
Yes. Project Aeon was
Details are below.
Joe Dever's millennial gift to all of his fans, and he did something that, to the best of my knowledge, no author who has an IP like that has ever done. Which was that he said, "Here are all of my books. Put them for free online, so that any fan anywhere with access to the internet will be able to read them forever."
Wow.
Most of them were out of print by then, I would have thought.
Many of them were out of print, but a few of them weren't. He just took his entire library for the most part, and he gave it over, including newsletters and magazine articles, and pretty much anything a fan would want. He provided for free to the folks at Project Aeon, and they have been absolutely stellar at updating, taking fan opinions into account. They have their own forum. They've done errata. It's a really wonderful resource, and I recommend that anybody take a look at it.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at it now, because I've got it queued up, ready. So this is their main page.
Yep. And they keep it simple and low graphics so that anybody can look at them.
Yeah, and I get that. I understand why most people looking at it were going, "Oh my God, this looks like a website from 1999." But
which it kind of is. So,
but it's got a practical reason, and that's that a guy with really poor internet in Uganda who's maybe in a web cafe for half an hour can come on and easily access the website, can click on the books, and here they all are to be downloaded. One question I wanted to ask you is, are these the new editions or are these the original editions?
No, these are the original editions. They are. These versions have only been updated to up to Dead in the Deep, as you can see there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Dead in the Deep is book 29, and from the Storms of Kai back, all the books are there.
Right. So these are the first 28, basically. Dead in the Deep's 28, and the world. These ones are. These were kind of like a parallel adventure, and I bought the first one. And I can't remember why, but I didn't really like it. It just didn't grab me the same way. I think because the focus was much more on magic.
Yes, it was a very different character. Greystar is a very different character from Lone Wolf.
Yeah, and I like my magic and fantasy sparingly. If every wizard can fire thunderbolts out their arse at any time, it kind of reduces the impact of it. Do you know what I mean? To quote
more Gandalf, less Merlin. I get it.
Yeah. So this is one of the problems I have with. We were talking about the Kenobi show later, and we're both big Star Wars fans. Not as big as Suzette, obviously, but I hate the way that they've made the Force. Now it's like it can do all these different things, and it's not used sparingly, and it's also not consistent with the previous lore as to who's so strong with it at a certain time. And that I found that really annoyed me, and it also makes it less effective because you lose the sense of jeopardy with it. Not to mention lightsabers no longer killing people, but let's not go there. So
that would probably be a whole different show to talk about Star
Wars. We'll just do a show called Lightsabers. You can come back for that. And
sure, I've got mine here.
He's got a lightsaber there. But don't
let Suzette lightsaber.
Don't let Suzette come around. It'll be gone. She'll have it if.
Really good, natural.
Yeah.
Awesome. We can spar. It'll be great.
Oh, wonderful. Look forward to it.
There's Rennie Taylor's watching. I don't know if that's someone you know, but
hi, Ronnie.
Says greetings from Discord.
Yeah.
Is that a forum for discussing Lone Wolf or something?
Yes, as a matter of fact, once this is up, I'll add in a comment, I'll add the Discord links so people can join in.
Oh yeah, cool. Okay, fantastic. And then it was again talking about the sad passing of Joe. So Project Aeon, it was great that he did that. And the funny thing is, I knew nothing about Project Aeon until I found somewhere I came across the Magnum's relaunch went on.
Right.
Went, oh my god, they're relaunching Lone Wolf, and this has been a thing I've always wanted to play the whole story. And this has been on my bucket list of things to do. And I realized, you see, I thought around book 10. I mean, I guess I was preoccupied in life with other things, but I don't remember in the shops seeing like Lone Wolf book 20. But then
Right.
I did see some in a charity shop many moons ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago or something. I saw some in the early 2000s in a charity shop, none of which I'd seen before. And I was, oh, right, they did carry it on. I thought it only went to book 12. And, you've got to remember when these books came out, the internet wasn't a thing. So it wasn't like there was somewhere you could go and easily check out on what else was being made and that kind of stuff. So to find this now, and it's got, like you said, it's got everything on there, Project Aeon. All the maps as well, all the artwork. You can literally look at everything, and I think that's fantastic. But the reason to buy the relaunch books over the just going on here and downloading these for free, maybe talk about the relaunch a bit and your involvement and what the new editions of the books offer.
Oh, absolutely. So the definitive editions, which is what we're calling this, these new books are the definitive editions for Lone Wolf. One of the goals, that's them. One of the goals is to make certain that there is finally a contiguous edition. Starts at 1, it'll end at 32. They'll all be published with the same art format, the same size, because unfortunately, with all of the different publishers over the years, there's never been a contiguous set.
No, you're right. Absolutely right about that. And the style of the art and the quality of it has varied considerably.
It has.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved all of the art, but the styles have widely varied.
Yeah.
Widely varied. So this definitive edition, it starts at 1, it'll end at 32, it'll look fantastic on a shelf. And it gives readers a chance to have a constant experience all the way through. That was important.
I always wondered about, you see, I liked these black spines.
Yes. Yeah, I preferred the black spines as well.
On books 2, 3, and 4. And then it kind of went back to beige again on book 5.
Well, see, it didn't go to beige. It's just that book is using the Kai discipline of camouflage.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you have to be in the know.
It's magic. It's magic. But so the definitive editions aren't just visually going to be a continuous experience. They are also fully errated. Another editing pass has gone through. Some of them have been expanded. Book 1 has an entirely different introduction.
Yeah, I noticed that because I replayed it recently. I'm going to replay it again online. So for those people watching, I'm going to do live streams of playing all 32 books, which is going to be great fun for me and Suzette.
Suzette's you're going to love it. You're going to love it.
I think I will. I'm intrigued.
So I hope you have a lot of fun with it. But yes, so book 1, whole new introduction that actually comes from the collector's edition, which was published in the mid 2000s. But it's also been updated. There's a full editing, full errata, and new to this edition, new to the definitives, is a section in the back that's a Magnum glossary, and that's got terms, lessons for the Giak language, explanations for items within, just sort of a deeper dive into the lore.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember, like, because there's, you've got descriptions of the different types of creatures,
full on art. Things are illustrated and explained in a way that's never been done before.
No, and I like the fact that there's the background to like the different orders and brotherhoods and things in the world. this was the thing I always really liked about this world, and
The deep
The
lore, yeah, absolutely.
the inspiration for this, and there's locations as well. Like there are specific locations. I
Yep.
know I went through the graveyard of the ancients, which was a pretty terrifying experience, when I was playing it. And I think I found the temple of I don't know how you pronounce that, Ramus. I didn't find the Malice Mound.
Yeah.
I didn't find the Malice Mound. So when I go back and play, I think I should have to try and find that. But yeah, it's really good. It's really detailed, and it's really interesting. And this is a great thing for someone to buy if they've got like a 9-hour flight.
That would definitely keep you busy for the 9 hours. The definitive editions, they expand the lore, they expand the story, they tidy it up, and they also fix what has been a huge problem for a lot of fans, especially in the States, which was that when the books were published here, editors didn't understand what a game book was.
Right.
So they ended up like cropping off sections and page numbers and muddling things to the point where a few of the books, especially in the American editions, are unplayable.
Oh man, that's awful.
It's terrible. But the definitive edition fixes all of that, puts back in the deleted sections, and every book is expanded, if it wasn't already, into 350 sections.
Yeah, so there's a bit more of adventure to be had.
Exactly.
Who's doing all that work? Who does all that?
Well, that's where I come in. That's where Vincent Lazari, who is an absolute legend, where he comes in. Ben helms the entire project, and we have a fantastic group of volunteers, lore masters and editors and proofreaders who have done an absolutely phenomenal job.
Great stuff.
I mostly just stand back and sit on camera and do interviews.
Well, yeah, because I originally wanted Ben to come on, and he said, no, you don't want me, you want August. He's got a much more interesting beard and, this kind of thing. So
I'm working on my Riker. What do you think?
Yeah, it's I think you're ready to captain a spaceship. So
I just have to learn how to sit in a chair weird, and I'm good.
To explain to Suzette, because I think we sort of sidetracked your question a bit, Suzette, earlier. This is the character sheet that you have, that you start the game, and you have...
Am I Lone Wolf?
Yes.
Yeah, you're
the game as Lone Wolf.
Right.
And the start of the start of the story is that the Kai Monastery, they're kind of a bit like the Jedi in Star Wars, really, if we're honest.
The Jedi were one of Joe's inspirations for it. Yes.
Yeah, I think he said that.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the people that go and sort out disputes and they're peace breakers, but they're also really skilled fighters. They're like these kind of ninja monks almost, and they've been defending this land for a long time.
Yes, they have.
And the bad guys have come back, and what they decide to do is, instead of attacking the land, they go straight for the Kai Monastery. So they wipe out the core army that will defend this country all in one go, all the top level guys. And he's called Lone Wolf because he's like the lone survivor. He's the one that manages to get out.
Yes, when you're first in the monastery, your Kai name is actually Silent Wolf.
That's right.
And then when the monastery is, spoilers, destroyed, you change your name. You are now Lone Wolf. Important note, in the definitive edition, one of the things that we decided was very important was we changed many of the terms, and we also made the art more subtle. We wanted to make certain that men or women could be Lone Wolf. Right. So we did not specify a gender, so you can put yourself into the book, whoever you are.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. You could be male Lone Wolf, female Lone Wolf, or all things in between.
Beyond the binary.
One of the things that always grabbed me, and I asked August if he had a picture of this.
Yes,
of course he did. Of course he did. Let me see. There we go. That's what I want to show. So this picture was in the original Magnum and Companion, but it was also displayed on a board in my local game store, and it's the attack on the Kai Monastery by the bad guys, as sort of depicted in the book. The Kai Monastery Castle was much bigger than this. Don't know what I've done now. I've drawn a blue box on the castle, but yeah, and that really kind of captivated me. It was like, oh wow, okay, this book looks really interesting, and yeah, so that's what grabbed me from the window that got me to buy a book. It worked, and Joe used to own this model, I believe.
Yeah, well, that image is taken from a wargaming scenario that they played. They played out the attack on the monastery.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they ever played it out when the Kai won. Probably not. It's a bit like Zulu, really, isn't it?
From what I understand, the monastery fell really fast when they played it out.
Right. Because
there were a lot of bad guys.
The inspiration for the world was Joe created the world for his own kind of, I think, Dungeons and Dragons campaign initially.
Yes, correct.
And then he sort of thought, oh, this would serve this would serve this purpose well. And it was savvy business thinking that there aren't many game shops, but there are a lot of bookshops. So what I need to do is put a game in a book.
Yep.
And that was his sort of business mode for thinking behind it. So how long is it going to take for all 32 books to be released, the new editions? What's the timeline for that?
Well, we want to have the books come out. We're staggering them so that somebody doesn't have to buy a huge chunk of books all at once. So we're staggering them out. We're also taking our time to put them together properly. We want every book to be absolutely as perfect as it can possibly be. But the timeline is so that we can release 32, cap the original saga, and fulfill Joe's promise of a continuous story.
Right.
We want that to happen for the 40th anniversary.
And what's the date of the 40th anniversary?
2024.
Okay. Well, I've got to be there for that. Fantastic. So by 2024,
that is that is the current goal. That's what we're shooting for. We have the books all lined out as to when we should have them edited, when we should have them printed, when we should have them distributed. And yes, that's what we're shooting for.
So if I finish all 28 books by the end of this year, which is unlikely because I've got quite a lot on, then I've got to wait another a couple. It's going to be like the wait from Star Wars to Empire Strikes Back, or Empire Strikes Back to Jedi. I'm going to wait a couple of years before it comes out.
That's why we also have other projects in the pipeline as well. So there'll be other Lone Wolf related releases so that fans will not want for content.
So one of the other books that Joe wrote was, I think they were known as the Freeway Fighter series. Was that
Freeway Warrior books?
Freeway Warrior, and for Suzette's information, that was kind of like a Mad Max, like a Road Warrior, blatantly inspired by Mad Max, kind of post-apocalyptic. You're a guy with a car, and you
are Cal Phoenix.
Cal Phoenix, that's right. And there were 4 books in that series. I think I had the first 3. I don't have them anymore. They've definitely gone. But I thought I only had the first 2. But then when I looked at the list, I definitely had a Megazone, and that was the 3rd one. I hated that title, but the
Omega Zone. Yeah.
Now those are being relaunched as well. Is that right?
That is in process. And actually, if and when we do release them, we may hopefully expand that out to Joe's original plan of 12 books.
Yeah,
because he planned them out with plot lines and titles all the way to 12.
Right. Okay. So that information, you guys have got that info, and which is good. It's not like a George R.R. Martin situation where no one knows what the fuck's going on, kind of thing. Because I don't know if those books are ever going to get finished, man. Game of Thrones.
I had a friend mention to me that he just wanted to live long enough to see the last book in that series, and I said, "Oh, so you want to be immortal?" Okay. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No,
I hope it does. I hope it does. I have a lot of friends who love the series, but
yeah. So, so in terms of with the new stuff, is it just being sold online? Are you getting them back into bookstores, or what's the
Yes, getting them into bookstores is absolutely the plan, specifically with the paperbacks.
Right. Yeah. Which would take up a lot less space. And
yes, the paperbacks it'll be an easier in for a lot of fans, especially for people who are buying them for their kids. The definitive editions that are out now, the hardbacks, those are very much collectors' books.
Right.
You can absolutely read them, and we hope people are, but they're kind of they're the shelf bottle of the really good bourbon. As opposed to what will come out now, hopefully very soon, will be the paperbacks, and those they'll be less expensive. They'll be easier to knock around in a bag, hand them to your kids so that they can read them with your kids. That's always fun. I've really been looking forward to the paperback versions, and they're coming out before the end of the year.
Fantastic.
So, what age range would you say you can start them from? About 9 years old or younger?
I started at 8, but again, I was reading very early. I honestly I would say 9, 10. When Joe first put these out, he recommended 12. But
okay.
We've got a quick question here from I Am the Biggs. I don't know if that's
a very good question.
Is that Biggs from Star Wars? In regards to the bonus adventures found in the CE books, CE is
collector's editions.
Collector's editions. Okay. How soon can we expect to see those in a reprinted form?
Those are on the publication list, but I can't give you a date yet. I can actually explain that question for you. When the collector's editions, which was the ones that started in the mid 2000s, when we tried to do this once before with hardbacks, that series didn't finish. But what we did have, and what we're continuing to put out as collector's editions, in parallel with the definitive until we get to the point where they're all finally out, is that the collector's editions all have at the back a bonus adventure. Right. And those don't involve Lone Wolf. Those are other characters in the world. They expand on the lore. They tend to be shorter adventures, though some of them are pretty large. And those are all going to be pulled out of the collector's editions and bound into a series of books of their own.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I hope I Am the Biggs that answers your question. They are in the process, but I can't give you a date yet.
And don't forget, you can watch that question back again. Just hit the rewind button. So just another comment from Rainy Taylor. I got my start from Aeon Project, being as rare the books are to find until recently. I'm deeply grateful for the gift. I'll have to wait to buy all the DEs though. And Mr. Biggs seems pretty happy with that answer. Sweet. And if he could tell me if he is related to Biggs from the Star Wars saga, I would like to know. So,
if he is a Darklighter, I definitely want to know as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I met the actor who played.
Nice.
Owns a restaurant in Scotland. So there you go. That's what happens to people after they do Star Wars. They buy Scottish restaurants. So in terms of, now there was a Lone Wolf computer game, wasn't there?
There were 2, almost 3, but specifically there were 3 that actually came out. 2 very early on, and then 1 more recently with Forge Reply.
Right. Okay. And so, talk me through the recent one. How did that work? What was the format for that, and how different was it from the books? And were you kind of playing the same character, or where were you in the world, and all the rest of it?
Okay, well, the more recent one from Forge Reply was a mobile game, though you can get it on a Nintendo Switch as well. It takes place in the time between books 3 and 4. You are Lone Wolf. You're rebuilding the monastery, and you get an urgent distress call from a nearby town called Rockstar. And the town has been invaded, and you have to go there, explore the area, investigate why, get into an incredible number of fights, and eventually you assault a small citadel tower called Vatag, where you defeat a warlord and save the day, because you're Lone Wolf and that's what you do. Is that
a 3D environment adventure game, sort of?
Yes, that's a fully 3D actualized role-playing game. On your mobile device for the most part, because the Nintendo Switch is relatively recent. It's the same system though, and it's a lot of fun. I actually enjoy playing it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember a friend of mine owning the first Lone Wolf computer game, the very first one, which I don't think was a 3D thing.
Mirror of Death that came out on the Spectrum. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, and it took like quite a while for bits to load up, and yeah. Okay, I was wondering if I was imagining that, but
No, you were not. It was fun, and it actually had some great lore in it. The new one by Forge Reply has a ton of new lore, and it's fully official. It was written by Joe and myself, and it comes in 4 parts, and you can play them individually like books on their own.
Yeah.
4 extremely large chapters. You play them all. They're a contiguous story. And yeah, we have a number of fans on the Discord who play it over and over again.
Fantastic stuff. I'm thinking about because I'm a novelist also, and I'm debating whether I might write a game book set in the world of my novel series.
You should give it a shot.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Could be interesting to play one of or a story that parallels the characters, and you might meet some of the characters from the actual book series. You know, I don't know, but God, it's a lot of work though. So
it is definitely a mental exercise for an author to do a game book, because you have to think about your story in a whole new way.
Yeah, and put it all out on the floor.
Yeah,
with all the different numbers as well on postcards, I imagine would be the best way to.
You have to work on internal monologues and decision making. You have to express things in a completely different way. It forces you into a first person perspective. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let's see if I can add that to my to-do list with the other 357 things. We've got a question here from Kristin Solendas. Now, that's a name for a wizard, if ever there was one.
Solendas? Yeah, I think I'm going to borrow that. Hello, Kristin.
Lord Solendas. The men are coming. What is your bidding, and so forth? So, will there be definitive editions for Greystar? That's the parallel 4 wizardy books, I think.
Yeah, the ones we talked about earlier. Yes.
Yeah, Freeway Warrior and Combat Heroes. I don't know about Combat Heroes. Freeway Warriors, the Mad Max. So we kind of answered the Freeway Warrior question already, Kristin. So if you go back on this stream when it's finished about 15 minutes from this point, you'll get your answer there. What about Greystar and Combat Heroes?
All right. Well, the definitive editions, in the way that we're expanding them now, excuse me.
Right.
Greystar is absolutely on the block. I don't know when those will be done, but they are in planning. Freeway Warrior, not necessarily, though, of course, as we expand things out, we're going to want to do definitive editions for as much as we can. Combat Heroes is a little difficult because of that particular structure. Combat Heroes is a different style of book. We could do definitive editions, but I'm not sure that Ben and I have ever even discussed that. I'll mention it to him.
Fantastic stuff. So there is your answer, Kristin. And Kristin, thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah.
Do like and subscribe to the channel, because we interview all kinds of interesting creative people, and I'm sure we're going to get August back on again as well.
Glad to.
So, for somebody like me who's on a mission to, complete what I started back in the 80s. God, that sounds so long ago. So I've got the first 3 books. I'm going to order. There are six relaunch collectible edition CDs or whatever we call them. There are 6 of them out now. Is that right? 6?
6 and 7 are available for order. So
right. Okay. If I want to play through the whole thing through to 28, if I start getting ahead of the publication dates and access the books of Project Aeon, is there going to be a big difference there, or have any glitches been ironed out of the versions that are on Project Aeon?
The versions that are on Project Aeon are absolutely playable. The issues that I mentioned with the American editions, they aren't there online on Project Aeon. So yes, those would be totally playable.
Okay, but every book will be the new versions. They'll be slightly expanded, and they'll have a bit more chrome. Perhaps is maybe the best way to
Shiny and new, yes.
Shiny and new with a few extra bells and whistles. Well,
Yes.
I mean, I think I'll probably, if I'm going to play them and stream the plays, I think I'll probably do around 3 of them this year, because we're also about to go into production for a play. We're doing the first read through of the play this
Oh, right. You were
Sunday.
mentioning that before. Yeah.
Yeah, False Accounts, which is about the British biggest miscarriage of justice in British history, the post office scandal. Just Google it and you can read all about it.
I thought that was season 5 of Bake Off.
Well, yeah, that's the second biggest. Yeah, no, so we're going to be knee deep in that, but I am going to apply myself to this task. And for me, it'll be a lot of fun. So it'll be a good way of letting off steam after.
Oh, yeah.
After rehearsing with 12 actors, which can always be quite intense. Got another question from my good buddy, Nerdly UK, who also runs a podcast. Lovely guy. And he was my co-host recently. We did a countdown of our favorite top 10 disaster films. And that's on the stream. If you want to go and have a look, it's under our Chew the Fat. Chew the Fat's where we kind of talk about our favorite things. I mean, this could have been an episode of Chew the Fat, but it's not like a top 10. So he's asking, how do you find the popularity growing, or has it just never went away? I mean, I know that there was a really hardcore fan base in Spain and Italy.
Yes. There's a huge European fan base, and they never chilled. They never went away. They were always there, and they've pushed ever since the book started coming out. Excellent question, Nerdly. I find the popularity is absolutely growing, and we've been blown away by the response. The number of people who join the Facebook site daily, who jump onto the Discord, who follow us on Instagram. It is definitely growing, and I also think that there's an element that just never went away. These books were very formative for a lot of people's childhoods, and as they discover that they're coming back, I think daily we get one person, at least one, who pops up and goes, "I read these when I was a kid. I thought they were gone."
Yeah, that was me. That was me the other week.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. So I hope that answers your question.
And he's elaborated further. And if it's growing more, why do you think that is? Well,
I think there are a number of factors. I mean, one, who doesn't need an escape right now?
Right.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
And two, it's an epic fantasy story, and who doesn't love those? So I think it's growing because it appeals to people's childhoods. So when they rediscover it, it's nostalgia, and nostalgia is the greatest drug in the world. So that works. And it's just a good story, so it draws you in.
Here's a question for you. So you're kind of, I don't know if we're the same age, but I think probably around the same age. And when we were getting into the books, and one of the things that we wanted was we wanted more films that represented the fantasy books that we read, like Lord of the Rings and so on. Of course, you had Ralph Bakski's animated version, which actually I thought was very good.
I enjoyed it.
But until the Peter Jackson films came out, I think the first one came out in 2000 or 2001, I think. We were quite limited in terms of what we got in terms of our fantasy films, but there were a few good ones. Did you have a favorite prior to Lord of the Rings that you felt, oh, this is nearly given me?
Oh, absolutely. Excalibur.
1983, directed by John Boorman.
Excalibur was my go-to fantasy movie. And around then, and there was a cheesy one, The Sword and the Sorcerer.
Oh, yes.
I loved it. I recently rewatched. There you go.
The vinyl soundtrack for it, and Albert Poon, who directed it, is a really good friend of mine.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's cheesy, but it's wonderful.
We'd get him on here for an interview, but he's battling brain cancer quite publicly, so I'm not betraying a confidence when I mention that, and he's been quite public about his struggle with it. But I do write to him occasionally still, and sort of send him messages to perk him up. But he's a lovely lovely man. And
If there's a way to support that, can you put that in the comments?
I think there is. He's trying to crowdfund one last film.
Okay.
And guys, if there's a link for that or it's still going, I will add it when I re-edit the information below here, and I'll do the timestamp. I'll get it in there. And his partner's name is Cynthia Curran. You can certainly reach out to her if you'd like to support her on Albert, and you can find her on social media. But he was kind enough to watch my first feature film, and he gave me an amazing quote for it, and it was just really helpful. Gave me his time, and so you could just tell he's a really nice, giving man. And there's not many people like that in the film industry because it's a proper cutthroat, nasty place. But there are, a few standout people like my friend, the actor Jason Fleming, is another one. You can see an interview that we did with him on the channel. And I've got a few other of my actor friends coming on. I've got Craig Fairbrass coming on in a couple of weeks, and I've just done a couple of others. So they're all on the channel. Guys that are watching can fish through those. I think we've got another question here.
Sure.
Big Starklighter has mentioned Basquian rotoscoping. I really liked that rotoscoping. It was kind of really eerie and quite cool. I quite liked it.
I think it was the first rotoscoping I'd ever seen, and it was very evocative. It worked in those movies. It was fantastic.
Because didn't he use it in that other film called Fire and Ice? He did a film called Fire and Ice as well that not many people.
It was used in Fire and Ice. It was used in Wizards.
That's right, Wizards. Yeah.
What is it?
So rotoscoping is where. Well,
let me see if I can find it.
I will give this one to the film developer.
Well, no. I'll see if I can
tell me.
So in very simple terms, basically, rotoscoping is where you film live action, and then you lay a form of illustration over it.
Ah, cool.
So like in this case, the rotoscoping would in what he's discussing, what Biggs is discussing, is there are some rotoscope scenes involving the orcs. And even a couple of the Fellowship scenes, where live action was filmed and then illustrations were laid over it. And depending on how you do it, it can look really eerie. Like in Wizards, there were these ghostly, black, almost Nazi-esque soldiers, and they were rotoscoped over live action, and it looked very ghostly. It was great.
Wow.
Here you go, Suzette. So this is a clip of it.
Here's some rotoscoping.
I've muted it because for copyright reasons.
Yeah.
This is the Battle of Helm's Deep. Just trying to get it a bit bigger here. I should have expanded the screen, but you can see what they've done is they've got the actors in costumes, and then they've sort of done this, put this weird effect over the top. I really liked it as well. It was very ingenious for the time.
Right.
And there's Ian McKellen there.
Because what it does, it gives you all the benefits of illustration, but with a very lifelike motion.
Yes.
So it's kind of uncanny valley sort of thing.
Wow.
Nerdly saying he's loving this chat. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Glad you're here.
Really glad to see we've got people tuning in, different people dipping in and out, been getting some messages on Facebook as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but more importantly, do support the Lone Wolf series and get you've got the website link scrolling on the screen now. It's also down below. You've also got the Project Aeon links down below.
Check them both out. You'll be happily surprised. Project Aeon is immense.
Yeah, it is a really great resource. I've got a couple of questions on that. Are the maps? I just love the maps. And actually, do you know what? I might have within arm's reach a map that I drew for my fantasy RPG. I think it's in a folder over there. I'll have a look in a minute.
All right. But I would absolutely love if I could take a moment to plug Francesco Mattoli. He does the maps. He is our map master, and his work is fantastic.
Does he have a link or anything?
I'll drop a link for him in the comments once this goes posted up.
Fantastic. Okay, so he's the man behind the maps because they're just great. Is it and there's sets of them on the Aeon thing. Are they available for order or something? Or
we will be putting those map sets back up for available purchase as soon as we can. Like I said, the definitive edition has been our push. The books have to come out. But one of the things that we'll support is that they used to be for sale. Francesco, he had some sets, but I believe he's finally sold the last of them. As soon as we can get them back in production, we will. Because yes, the map sets are great.
Yeah, they're really good. One day I might even own a house big enough to put them up on the wall. I'm gonna see if I can find my little map quickly. I'm gonna drop myself out the studio. So Suzette, if you would fill in and ask our guest a couple of questions, I shall be right back.
Oh, is it time for our lightsaber battle?
Yeah, let's go. I'm going to use my ring of fire here.
Okay, well, in that case, I will use my lightsaber.
What color is it? Oh, yes. Fantastic. I've got two sons, you see, so, you know, it was a good time.
Oh, yes.
And the lightsabers.
They're fun to play with.
A little bit enthusiastic. So, you know, the lone wolf.
Right.
When the killing happens, what is his aim? To get revenge? Is that the aim, to get revenge or bring peace to the land?
Well, now, one of the things that makes Lone Wolf a hero is that revenge has never really been a motivation.
Right.
The first book is all about trying to warn the king, because the king of Summerland, because the attack on the monastery was just preemptive. The main villain of that book, Archlord Zagarna, his goal is to first conquer all of Summerland and then from there sweep over all of Magnum. Killing the Kai is just how he makes that possible.
Right.
So when you, as the last Kai, realize that this massive army isn't going to stop with you, your goal is to warn the king and save lives.
Oh man,
I'm intrigued.
I wasn't.
It's a really good story.
Yeah,
it is. It's really good. And I'm going to say it totally inspired this artwork that I did for this. Guys, I didn't even know if I still had this map. I just had a quick look because I think I've got it over there, and I do.
When's it from, Lance?
This is from, I made this in, oh my God, I've got to be careful because the paper's really delicate. I made this in the 80s. I'm going to put
We're about to watch the destruction of a map.
I'm going to put my on solo so people can see it properly.
Sure.
Be careful.
Please be careful.
See that?
Oh, it's lovely.
That's really good.
You can see the nods to the Lone Wolf artwork with the mountains. And this was also for a novel series that I was writing as a kid. And I used to write it in exercise books, but it was also a role-playing campaign that we did for D&D. And I created all my own world for it, just like Joe did. There's a second map here, which I did.
Oh,
and
that's really good.
Honestly, guys, I don't even know if I still had this stuff. I definitely didn't think I still had this poster that I did for like my own Mad Max kind of thing.
Wow, Lance.
That was back in the days when I could actually draw. I'm really glad.
I like that.
I need to laminate that and put that in a frame.
That is a great poster.
A bit of Mad Max and everything.
Yeah, you should totally frame that up.
And then I did this whole illustration book as well. I didn't complete it all, but this was a like story, and it was called The Prophecy of the Witch King, and this was like the Witch Council, and it starts off with the Witch King's dead, and they've got to nominate a new leader, and then the tower gets ambushed, and a whole load of the council get killed, and I think 3 or 4 of them escape, and that's like the start of the story. And I drew all these different castles, and yeah, man, I didn't think I still had this. These are like scenes from the book and different parts of the.
Well, I'm glad you still have them.
Yeah, I still started painting that one, but didn't fit. Man, this paper, like, it's got that old smell, you know.
Oh, that's lovely.
Like it's been in a house that's haunted or something. All these different pictures. This was like a central poster for the thing. You know, I always wanted it to be like a movie. So
Right.
Those were the different witch characters.
Nice.
And I couldn't draw faces very well. I seem to recall that I got a friend of mine to do this woman's face for me. So that's the only bit of it that I didn't draw myself.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, man. I can't believe this is funny. I've got to show you this picture. If you can see the ducks. Can you see the ducks?
Yeah.
I do see the ducks.
So that's like that's like the heroes, and because ducks were in Rune Quest, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
And I for some reason I thought it would be entertaining to have these two ducks in the book called Dunlop and Doolip, and that's the Witch King that the book is ultimately all about. And and I wrote these in school exercise books. I don't think I still have the original manuscripts, but that was all the artwork and the maps for it, which I did not think I had, and I didn't know I still had that Rebel poster. So that's kind of nice to find that.
I'm glad you found them.
Yeah, and actually, I need to store them more carefully because they're in a corner where there's been a bit of damp there, so I don't want that getting in there, do we? Anyway, let me take there's a bit of a completely unplanned segue there, but that just goes to show the influence of Lone Wolf on me. You could see the influence in the artwork and everything. You know what I mean? And
on the YouTube channels, a lot of people there was an interview with Joe, and a lot of people, even up until recently, I think it was in 2016, are so happy to have found it. They're so grateful. So the impact, and they're talking about their childhood and the impact it had on
back those memories, and especially right now, we need the escape.
Yes.
So it is wonderful. Lone Wolf is blessed with a number of great artists. We have Alberto Delago, we have Lucas Thelen, we've got Richard Nerdgore, and we have great covers, great vignettes, and I'm glad that all inspired you as well.
Trust me, that was when my artist abilities were at their highlight. I've tried doing little cartoons and things since then. I didn't keep it up. I've completely lost it. I don't have it anymore.
Those ducks were special.
Those ducks were amazing.
Ducks were very special needs. That's certainly
didn't say needs, just said special.
Well, they did have needs. They had various needs. So
my artistic abilities are limited to painting miniatures. I don't draw at all. So
I've got to ask you this: what's the yellow robot thing in the background there behind you?
Oh, well, I was just using him to hold the box set, but that is the Ark from Transformers.
Okay, I thought it might have been Huey, Dewey, or Louie from Silent Running. Kind of, I can only see part of it, but it looks a bit like one of them. If you did you see that movie?
I did.
Yeah.
But no, that's the Ark and Teletram 1 from Transformers.
Okay. I'll stop watching the Transformers movie after number 2. I think
very loud.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, they are very loud. So
it's Michael Bay. He has a thing. So
guys watching in the chat, we're going to wrap up in about 5-10 minutes. So if you've got any questions for our guest,
any other questions, feel free to
throw them in the chat now before we go. So apart from kind of working on all the Lone Wolf lore and the books on the Lone Wolf game, are you also a writer of any other RPG properties or books, or any other kind of projects within that milieu coming out?
Well, right now it's pretty much Lone Wolf all day, all the time. But in my career, I've written for a number of games. I've written for D&D. I've written for Babylon 5, Conan. Yeah,
right.
a number of different properties. Go on.
I used to own the Babylon 5 game. I used to have that.
Which version? The ones from Lone Wolf, or the ones from Lone Wolf? The ones from Mongoose, or?
So the first one that I had was like the war game thing where you had the different
Call to Arms.
Yeah, and I had it until fairly recently, and there was the core box set, and the counters were on like hexed. The ships were on hex-shaped counters. I seem to vaguely recall.
Yes, hex-shaped bases, and they were pewter miniatures. And then that was Call to Arms, which Mongoose ended up taking over, and they produced a second version of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I had the original version. I had the core set and a couple of the different races.
Now, I did a little writing for the war game, but I mostly did the role-playing game.
Right. Yeah. And I saw that when that came out, and I wasn't playing RPGs by then. Would you have any interaction with Straczynski in terms of kind of, making sure things were correct, or were you given a Bible or anything like that, or did you know it fairly well? I'm a massive fan, by the way, of
as was I. Absolutely. I did exchange a few emails with him. For the most part, though, we had the license, so we wrote through it. I wrote some of the base game. I didn't actually write the original game, but I did a lot of the supplements. That
show and ER were the two shows when I started writing. They were the two shows I really wanted to write for at all costs.
Absolutely. Babylon 5 was absolutely fantastic and formative.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but I blagged a phone call and I got Straczynski on the phone. And said, "Look, I really want to write for the show. What have I got to do?" And he told me no 3 times. And then he said, "Look, I've told you no 3 times now. How many more times do you want me to say no?" And I was like, "Okay, then. Well, I'm still going to watch it. Love the show. Thanks. Bye." So, yeah.
Well, no, I didn't have a lot of interaction with Straczynski, but I did have more interaction with some of the actors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, when Mongoose was at its height with Babylon 5, we did some demo games at Gen Con here in the States.
Right. Yeah.
And I was writing at that time. I had written several of the season books. So I had pulled a scenario out of one of the season books, and I was running it for players. And I knew that the actor who played Michael Garibaldi was at the con, and he wasn't very far away. So there was a point in the game where I had all of the players. They were playing. They were in security. They were all playing security characters. So
Jerry Doyle,
Jerry Doyle, yeah, exactly.
Late Jerry Doyle, sadly,
yes.
Who could have played Bruce Willis's brother in any movie?
Yes. I wish he had. That would have been fantastic. He could have been in a Die Hard. He'd have been a fantastic brother character in a Die Hard.
Yeah, movie. He would have been. I don't know why they didn't think to do that, but yeah.
But in the scenario that I'd written, there was a comm call on a link, and so I told everybody to pause for a moment. I went over and I got Jerry to come to the table, and he read his parts to the players.
Oh, wow.
Did anyone video that?
I wish they had. But because there was a part in the scenario where Garibaldi just chews out the players for screwing something up.
Right.
And they didn't know what was happening. He stood behind them and just started yelling at the players. It was
I mean, I didn't meet him, but I heard him and Mia Furlan, who sadly we lost at the beginning of the pandemic. I heard that the two of them were like the nicest of people, and they were really giving, in terms of time for the fans and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, every actor from that show that I met, and I met most of them, usually at Gen Con, because a lot of them would come out to be guests at the conventions. I didn't meet a single one that I didn't think was a sweetheart.
Right, that's nice to hear. Yeah,
Claudia Christian is a real trip.
Oh great. Man, I've got to meet her in my lifetime. That's got to happen. Have you read her biography?
I have. Patricia Tallman, also fantastic person.
Yeah. It's a shame that they weren't in the show all the way through, and largely due to behind the scenes political and contract wranglings that went tits up. And I think that
the fact that no one knew if a season 5 was even going to happen.
Well, there's that, and they had the same problem with season 4. So like season 3 was kind of like supposed to be the final at one point, and then suddenly it was like, no, we're giving you another season. Shit, I've got to rewrite everything. That must be a nightmare.
Things like that happened with Lone Wolf too, but we overcame. We overcame.
So, are you looking forward to the B5 reboot, because they're talking about rebooting it?
Apparently I am. I definitely want to see how they're going to do it, and I know that they'll stay true to it because Straczynski's involved, and he won't let them not be true to it.
Which actor would you get to play the lead Narn character in it? Because God, wasn't Andreas Castellas just amazing?
I don't know if there's an actor that can do Jakar that well.
Let me. I'll get a picture up for Suzette, so she can see who we're talking about.
Jakar's "We Are One" speech was chilling.
Oh my God, such an amazing scene, and I just rewatched the whole.
So I should watch that.
Recently.
I should watch it then.
Oh, you absolutely should. Yes.
I mean, it's a sci-fi show, but the strength in the show are the actors and the characters. Not every episode is great. Some of the episodes are a bit weaker than others, but the actors really convict to their parts, and you have this rivalry going on between two factions, the Narn and the Centauri. And Nondo is the ambassador of the Centauri, and Jakar is the ambassador of the Narn, and they're kind of like these. They hate each other, but they really love each other actually. But they also hate each other, and it's the forces around them that make them hate each other, not themselves. It's always stuff that's out of their control that ends up making them. But brilliant performances from both. Actors, and I mean, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but I'm sure people don't mind.
To answer your question, Suzette, it's 5 seasons of roughly 20 episodes a season.
Okay,
but it's well worth the time investment.
Yeah.
So this
I'm always looking for new things.
This is Andreas. This is him as Jakar. I mean, you'll recognize him, Suzette.
Yeah.
He played bad guys in like a lot of movies. He was constantly a Romulan in Star Trek. This is him as Jakar in Babylon 5, and it took him a long time to get that makeup on. And there's quite a few pictures of him on set smoking out of that mask, you know. And, sadly, he died of lung cancer. There he is with Mia Furlan, who was just a wonderful actress as well. And her I don't know if you must have seen it, that speech that she gave on stage at a convention about becoming part of that community and how much it meant to her coming from a war-torn country and her backstory. And I watched that. I didn't see that speech until after she died, because it was everywhere on the internet after that, and I missed it when it came out. When I watched it, I just burst into tears. It was just because it was so genuinely heartfelt, and I thought, God, we've really lost, you know, some special people here.
We definitely did. To answer your question on this amazing tangent, it might be controversial, or it might not. I think I'd ask Clancy Brown.
He would make a great. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be Jakar. It should just be another Narn character. Clancy Brown would be fucking awesome. Whether he'd want to do the 6-hour makeup job that the show.
Now, if you want somebody with the same intensity who would happily do the makeup, you got to go Ron Perlman.
Yeah, he'd be good. I also think my buddy Jason Fleming would be good, and he's someone who doesn't mind being in the makeup chair.
Yeah,
and he played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and you know, he had the massive headpiece.
Yeah. That would work too. I just know that if Ron Perlman could put up with Hellboy, he could put up with being a Narn.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So you worked on B5. There was a couple of other properties you were going to mention, other RPGs and things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did a number of pure D&D books. I've worked for several different companies. I also worked on the Conan IP.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. I mostly do fantasy. I've done some Traveler, if you know that role-playing game.
I do. Azanti High Lightning has been my handle on many a channel. So, and used to on the War Game forums, that was my handle, Azanti High Lightning, and only a Traveler fan would know where that comes from. When you say you've done a number of D&D books, do you mean standalone novels, or do you mean the adventure modules?
Adventure modules. I only actually have a few novels out, but for the most part, it's always been RPG writing. And I worked with Wizards of the Coast on some of their living campaigns. I've written for Star Wars.
I always wanted to write a couple of those. I thought the Star Wars role-playing game, because I was working in a game shop when that was launched, I thought the quality of their products was really good.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Wizards of the Coast Star Wars property was fantastic. When it was back with West End Games, it was good there too.
Yeah.
The Star Wars role-playing games have always been quality.
Yeah, I agree, and better than Kenobi in my opinion. But
agree to disagree.
Do you have any other stuff coming out in that world aside from the Lone Wolf stuff that you want to plug, or is it, as you said, is it live, eat, breathe Lone Wolf 24/7 now?
I pretty much live in the monastery right now, and that's what I do, and I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else right now. I want to see the definitive editions out to their end. I want to work on these additional properties that we're putting out right now. The things that are in the works are going to blow fans' minds.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to see them. I'm definitely going to want, a copy of the Magnum and Companion as soon as it's available. We've got a couple more questions here before we wrap up. And
sure.
Those people that tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Spread the word about the book series. If you're a fan of the book series and your friends don't know about it, do a post about it on your social media. There is a great Facebook page, which I'm also now an active member of, because I'll be posting about all my streams of playing the game, and people going, "Lance, don't go that way. That leads to death," and that sort of thing. But we've got a couple more questions here. So, what are your convention plans in the near future, August? So that means not convention plans in August. That means what are August's convention plans?
Well, interestingly enough, my next convention plan is in August because it's Gen Con. I'm going to Gen Con again, and that is in the month of August.
Where is Gen Con and what are the dates?
Indianapolis here in the States. At this point, I just know that it's in August. I don't actually know the dates. I haven't gotten my tickets for it yet. So
I'm just, because, I'm going to be in the States in August, man. And I'm just thinking, like, maybe I can make it there.
No, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
What are you going to be doing at the con? So here we go. It begins on the 4th of August.
Oh, it's really early in. Yeah. Okay.
And ends on the 7th. I'm going to be in Tampa around that time, I think. Unless I splooge more money and go to Indianapolis first. And I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, do it.
Well, I would need
them. You should come out. I'd love to see you.
Do it.
Well, listen, man, if I win the lottery between now and then, I'll definitely put that in as well. But yeah, so what's happening at the con? What are you doing?
Well, at the convention at Gen Con, I'm actually there as a game master for Catalyst Labs. I'm part of their demo team, so that's BattleTech, that's Shadowrun, and
Shadowrun. Yeah, remember that. I used to have the game on my Super Nintendo.
I remember the SNES game. For that, I'm probably going to be game mastering Shadowrun for the most part.
Yeah, that was a good system. I think that might have been the last RPG I played, and I remember in the early 90s there was a real lean towards kind of Blade Runner-esque sci-fi dystopian future systems, and the big two, people either played Cyberpunk or they played Shadowrun, and there was a bit of rivalry between the two. But the Shadowrun books and products always had a slightly, better finish, slightly more quality, just felt a bit like upper class. Cyberpunk was kind of like the dirty big brother, and their books were a bit more.
It depended on whether or not you liked your dystopian future to be dark and gritty and very based in reality, or whether you liked having elves and trolls and magic in your Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
because Shadowrun is basically science fantasy.
Yeah. I played both of them and had a lot of fun. But the game on the Super Nintendo, man, that took up hours of my time. And at some point, you reach this thing where there's like a vampire in a tomb, and you keep stabbing him. And he says, "My God, my eyes!" And you just have to keep hitting him like countless times. I can't believe I'm remembering this because this is the first time I've ever talked about it since I played it. But it was
had to keep hitting the Action A button over and over.
And eventually he died. And because I thought like he just keeps saying the same things. So there must be something else I needed to do. You had to keep going into that little arena and fighting all the different people to get there. And then eventually you get onto the next bit. Yeah,
all the little hacking mini games and
I
remember that.
Oh man, they don't make them like that now. You know, if they made like a more sophisticated version of a game like that now, I would play it for sure.
Now there is a Shadowrun computer game that's far more modern. Shadowrun Returns and Shadowrun Hong Kong. You should look those up on Steam because they're also really great games.
Oh man, it's going to take loads of my time away. Writing crucial things like my book series and so forth.
As
for my convention plans, right now this year it's just Gen Con. I wasn't able to go to Origins, unfortunately, but I will be at Gen Con, and I'm trying to do something at the end of the year, but I don't know which convention it'll be yet.
So how does that work? Are you kind of like on a list, and it's basically saying August HAHN is GMing Shadowrun from 1 till 6. There's room for 8 players, and then people that have paid for Gen Con can sign up for your game? Is that how it works?
Sometimes that depending on the convention, that it can work that way. For the most part, it's just these are the slots of Shadowrun that we're offering, and you can sign up for those games. And I'm running one of those slots.
Right.
Now with Gen Con, you can request game masters, but it isn't guaranteed.
So, I mean, it's not like a free-for-all rugby scrum at the table. People actually have to book slots on their phone or something.
I would love to see that. That would be great. But no, you have to book slots.
I think
they frown on elbows.
Big Starklight is with us again. The Lone Wolf miniatures. I used to have some of those. Were really something else. Both the original and newer versions that came out in the 2000s. What are the chances that we might get a newer version of the miniatures? Good question, Big Starklight.
It is a great question. It is unfortunately a question that I can't directly answer. All I can say is that if you are a miniatures fan, you're really going to want to pay attention to certain crowdfunding platforms in the near future.
That's great. Actually, when you're gearing up to do something like that, or anybody that's connected to the property do let me know.
Absolutely. Because
one of the channels I used to run before this was called The Naked Filmmakers, and every week we would pick 5 crowdfunding campaigns that we would plug.
I'll definitely let you know then.
I think I might restart that because if Zoom wasn't out then, neither was StreamYard. So I had to wait for my friend Alex to be free, and we both come around and do it in my house, and we pre-record it. But if we did it live, it would work a lot better because we could show all the trailers live. And
I'll let you know as soon as the details are solid. It is happening. I just don't have the details that I can share yet.
His wallet will never be prepared, but I'm going to make it work. Just sell your X-Wing, Biggs, and you should have enough.
Your bank account is not prepared.
Well, August, listen, I think that we're just about there. We've gone over, actually, by 11 minutes. So thank you for staying on for a bit extra time.
Sure. Glad to do it.
Thank you so much for coming. So those of you watching, all the relevant links, I think most of them are already there down below. We mentioned a few other things as well, and about
I'll add them in. I'll add them in as soon as it's up.
Yeah, well, so that they'll be in the comments section. I will timestamp this sometime in the next couple of days. So if you want to get to that bit where either August is talking about how he sculpts his beard, or Suzette's talking about how to steal Warhammer 40k collections, we will direct you to those relevant bits of chat, but mainly the Lone Wolf stuff.
And lightsabers. Don't forget lightsabers.
Oh yes, we had a fight when you was offline. So that's fair.
So Suzette,
she kicked my butt. It's just true.
Oh, an endearing image. Before we go, Suzette, with the Outcast Creative, we have got False Accounts. That's going to be on in Birmingham in October, and this is our first time back on stage since we did Borderlands in. Brochure for over there somewhere in
2019.
2019,
dear.
God, that seems like that just seems like not only like a lifetime ago, but like
anything pre-COVID is the ancient days.
It is. It was
historical.
It was an ancient time. It's going to be like that once. That's going to be like the start of a movie. It was an ancient time before the pandemic.
Back long ago.
We've got that coming up, and people can book tickets for that now. That's on in Birmingham, not Birmingham, Alabama. This is Birmingham in
the West Midlands of the UK.
In the West Midlands. I'm trying to share the poster here. But,
if I could hop the pond, I'd love to see it.
Oh yes, that would be fantastic.
So that's on. It's only on for a week, but it's the true story told in a satirical fashion about the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history, when all these postmasters who run the branches of the post office in the UK were diddled out of their own money by the very people that they were working for because of a faulty computer system that no one wanted to admit was wrong. And
I heard about that. Yeah,
it's a scandalous story. And the big news that we're announcing for the first time is we're also doing it in London. 2 weeks later, it's going to be on in London at the Questors Theatre in Ealing, a very prestigious theatre with none other than Judi Dench herself, sitting on the board for many years as the chairperson. And she was heavily involved in the theatre in its early days. So, there's going to be 2 productions of it, Birmingham and London. Can't wait to do that. That's what we've got coming up next. We also have, by the way, there's some Star Wars jokes in that as well, so you'd love it.
Break all the legs. All the legs.
We've also got another show that we're hoping to do online in the not too distant future. I can't put a timeline on it now. I'm trying to find the poster for that as well, but I can't see it. It's called The Tweet, and it's a fictional story about a woman who is in a major television franchise, and she gets fired for making a comment on Twitter from her show. And it's a fictional story. The character is called Nina Serrano, and it's Galaxy Wars. There we go. The Tweet. The fate of a rising actress is being decided in a Hollywood studio, so not very far away. This is a completely fictional story, definitely not based on anything that really happened.
No,
not at all. Not
absolutely not.
And we're going to be performing that live via Zoom on our channel. We're going to be premiering that at some point. I am still writing the script as I speak, so I think you're going to find that very amusing, August.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to share the love. Do check out the Lone Wolf stuff. Do check out our channel. Please subscribe. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers as soon as we can. We only started in lockdown. We're a pretty young channel, and we're kind of finding our way, but now we kind of know what we want it to be. You can also check out some live shows that we did during lockdown. I think you'll find the warm-up is a really good one to start with.
Oh, yes.
Very, very entertaining.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in. August, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely great to meet you
Stay safe out there. Be kind.
And as they say farewell in Lone Wolf, for Summerland and the Kai.